The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. With these wise words from Alice Walker, I would like to welcome you all to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Goleta. I am Sue Reinhardt, a member of the worship ministry.
Welcome to this house of memory and celebration. For our call to worship, I have three quotes. One from, the first two are from John Lewis. Freedom is not a state, it is an act. Freedom is the continuous action we must all take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society. And the second, again, John Lewis. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. And the third quote is from Rosa Parks. I have learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. And finally, the great Emma Goldman, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. Once upon a time, in a land neither wholly here nor entirely there, a realm caught between certainty and consternation, there came unto the people a man, whom many hailed as a mighty hero. Yea, it came to pass that he strode forth with bold proclamations, crying that he alone could mend the realm's sorrows and set all crooked ways straight. His voice boomed like mighty winds, and a great many, wearied by confusion and fearful of shadows, declared him the champion they had long awaited. Now this man, let us call him Sir Valorian the Resolute. This man believed deep in his heart that he was the linchpin keeping chaos at bay, but the dreams that swelled within him grew louder than the counsel of wisdom, and the mirror of self-reflection grew dusty upon his wall. He saw peril everywhere, save in the chambers of his own mind. And so, in the fervor of his certainty, Sir Valorian dispatched soldiers and sheriffs into the bustling cities of the realm. They bore grim countenances and even grimmer scrolls, commanding them to seize neighbors who wore different colors of skin, garb, and belief. Some folks were carried away, though they had harmed none. At first, many citizens, still enthralled by his early bravado, whispered, surely he means well. He knows what we need. Yet soon the whisper became a muttering, and the muttering swelled into a clamor, for oppression has a way of stepping upon too many toes, and toes do protest when trampled. And behold, in marketplaces, in schoolyards, upon bridges and boulevards, the people rose. They gathered in throngs, bearing banners of myriad colors. America was built by immigrants. And we're not here because there's hope. There's hope because we're here. And nothing is more American than opposing tyranny, and brown skin is not probable cause. And no sign is big enough to list all the reasons I am here. And isn't it past your jail time? And fight truth decay. One child held a sign proclaiming, "Weirdly enough, justice actually matters." This was widely considered exceedingly profound, and the marches grew. The dads brought drums, the youth brought chalk, elders marched with stout shoes and stronger convictions, librarians nodded solemnly from the sidelines because they know things, and the clergy brought snacks. After all, resistance is hungry work. Now, in the collective spirit of resistance, a curious thing happened. The people felt lighter, as though a mighty wind of change blew from the caves of their ancestors. As old teachers often said, when individuals weave their stories together, a mythic tapestry forms, a cloak large enough to shelter many. And so it was. The mood of the land shifted like clouds parting after a heavy rain. A few of Sir Valerian's soldiers, seeing the great mass of determined citizens, began scratching their helmets, for several had neighbors among the demonstrators, and one had a cousin who sold excellent muffins. Some of the warriors even felt their hearts stir, and the smallest sign of a turning began. The fervor of the people pressed back the tide of harm. Some of those clad in masks began to hesitate. A few of those giving cruel orders reconsidered the echo of their own voices. And the people, in their boundless imagination, found new ways to declare their unity. One group marched in splendid capes of bright colors. Another performed interpretive dance depicting the triumph of compassion over bureaucratic bumbling. It was confusing, but deeply moving. Through all this, a truth emerged, one older than kingdoms and sturdier than decree. It is this: when many hearts beat with the rhythm of justice, no single tyrant may silence the drum. The people began to feel the warmth of dawning possibility. They saw that collective action is a kind of worship, a sacrament of shared intention. And so the story continues. Wherever activism is practiced and wherever ordinary folk become extraordinary simply by acting together, the world begins to lean ever so slightly toward the good. A few comments about our little story. Stories are not just entertainment. They are mirrors made of metaphor and lamps made of imagination. They illuminate the path we are walking. An allegory lets us step back and perhaps see things more clearly. This tale brings us a reminder of both the peril of unchecked confidence and the power of collective courage. Certainty without reflection is like a sword without a scabbard. It cuts even when not intended. Sir Valerian, believing he was saving the land, sent armed sheriffs into the cities to seize neighbors who looked, prayed, or sounded different. Good people were carried away, and sorrow settled upon the land like an unwanted guest who refuses to leave even after you put on your pajamas. Psychologically, the people rising could represent the wisdom of the soul, the deeper center of wholeness, which calls us back into balance when the urge to control has wandered off track like a dog chasing its own reflection. The collective demonstrations symbolize a harmonizing force, like our inner self awakening to a profound principle, that we heal not by domination, but by relationship. Though the tale is fictional, it speaks to the inner landscape each of us must navigate. There are moments when fear whispers, "Stay quiet." But the soul whispers louder, "Gather, speak, be counted." And there are seasons when the world feels heavy, so heavy that it seems impossible for anything to shift. It is in such times, that we remember the wisdom of a fable like this. The people did not know if they would win, but they knew they must stand. And sometimes that is enough to start the turning.
I want to read a piece I wrote on a particular dark day, among these many dark days. I have no words. If I could be Langston Hughes or Anne Sexton, perhaps I could have words. But today, words fail me. Emily Dickinson said, "I have a funeral in my brain." It feels like that, but the funeral isn't only in my brain. It's in the leaves of the palms, in the maples turning red, the sycamore leaves dropping. The darkness seeps up from the ground like an invisible fog. The cat videos do not help. NPR doesn't help. The clear blue sky is a funeral. The clouds know it. The crows know it as they split the morning with their black cries. They took the girl called Compassion and deported her. I have no words, only the crows gathering darkness. Anna Akhmatova could describe this. I fail at every turn. The sun is oblivious to the cares of this small world. The warmth will not penetrate the cold, the lonely, the despair. But writing now, even these words begin to warm the frozen place inside. So on this morning, some friends were texting, and these are writer friends, so they had useful reflections. But in my hopeless, despairing place, I couldn't even find words. And so I thought, well, there are people who find words for these things. So I started reading other poets who could do that. And then later in the day, those words stayed with me, and something prompted me, and I began to write about having no words. And this is what this creative process can do for us. It can melt what freezes in us during times that we experience as oppressive and horrific and disempowering. We can sometimes hear other people's words or songs, and it can melt something frozen in us. And this is a long history of how people survive these difficult times through songs, through poems, through writing, through creative acts. There is a way that sometimes our own, and we all have it, our voice, our creativity can save us. But sometimes we can't do it alone. Sometimes someone else's words can, or someone else's art or expression can be a little ray into that part in ourself. Anna Akhmatova was writing during the Russian Revolution, and her poems had been, she was like a national hero of a poet. Her poems had been forbidden, but the people memorized her poems. And she could describe it. Someone asked her when she was standing in line at a prison, "Can you describe this?" And she said, "Yes, I can." And here's some sections of her writing. "It happened like this when only the dead were smiling, glad of their release, that Leningrad hung around its prisons like a worthless emblem flapping its peace, shrill and sharp. The steam whistles sang short songs of farewell to the ranks of convicted, demented by suffering as they in regiments walked along. Stars of death stood over us as innocent Russia squirmed under the blood-spattered boots and tires of the Black Marias, the widows, the Black Marias. You were taken away at dawn. I followed you, as one does when a corpse is being removed. Children were crying in the darkened house. A candle flared, illuminating the Mother of God. The cold of an icon was on your lips, on your brow. I will never forget this. I will gather to wail with the wives of the murdered Stritsky, inconsolably, beneath the Kremlin towers." And she said, "I will gather to wail with the wives of the murdered Stretsky," and she did. And she wailed in her writing, and she wrote descriptions and long pieces describing these experiences. And that kind of writing is a way of naming what we're going through, what we would turn away from, what feels unspeakable. And for Anna Akhmatova, she also used writing as a healing, a way to return to life and a way to grieve also. And she had another piece she called, "I Taught Myself to Live Simply." I taught myself to live simply and wisely, to look at the sky and pray to God, and to wander long before evening, to tire my superfluous worries. When the burdocks rustle in the ravine, and the yellow-red rowan berry cluster droops, I compose happy verses about life's decay and beauty. I come back. The fluffy cat licks my palm, purrs so sweetly, and the fire flares bright on the sawmill turret by the lake. Only the cry of a stork landing on the roof occasionally breaks the silence. So there's a way that we can heal through finding our words, and it's available, I think, to each of us. You don't have to be a poet or writer. And there's this spontaneous outpouring of creativity among creative people and among people who have never written or created before. And in Minnesota, that place where some of the darkest days have been experienced, the protesters have started what is called now the singing resistance, singing as a way in their protest, a way of naming, a way of being together, a way of reaching out. Today on social media, you will find all this creative outpouring. I'm sure probably all of you have encountered some of it. And one thing that these songs, these expressions can do is give us strength and decrease isolation, express things that we can't express. And those who are not, are more isolated, who are at home alone and feeling powerlessness, it can even reach into the homes and the hearts of people who are at their wits' end of despair. And in that way, it can create some solidarity. It can unfreeze that frozen part. It can give us hope. There's many stories and comments about people finding hope by hearing some of these songs, some of these stories, hearing Jesse Wells. Jesse Wells, if you don't know Jesse Wells, find ICE. Sorry that video was messed up. Join ICE. He has every dimension of creative expression in songs you can imagine. I suggest you check him out if you haven't heard of him. But naming these things can help us to remember what we might forget, can help us to remember our own responses, can reach beyond our hopelessness, our sense of isolation, can, as that little story said earlier, keep that little flame alive. Singing resistance in Minnesota has spread, as some of you know, all over the country, and there are groups who are singing, and they're training people to sing, and they have simple songs that people can sing, old songs, new songs, Hold On, Dear Ones. They had even a song they created to sing to where ICE was staying. And in that song, they were saying, it's not too late to change your mind. You can join us. And in that protest, all the songs, all the signs were not hostile signs. They were all signs of love and join us. So there's many, many ways that this singing and creativity. In fact, there was a group who did a dance number. It's an amazing number depicting the killing of Pettit and Renee Good in Minneapolis, and it was just stunning. Another song that the singing resistance in Minneapolis, sorry, I don't have the name of the writer of this song, were singing. I'm just going to read to you. Don't invade a winter people in the winter. Fundamental protections pertain here. You're on our watch. We deliver groceries. We follow peacefully. We take video. Keep our porch lights on because of masks and guns. We take video. Don't invade a winter people in the winter. We've got signal chat. Know where they attack. We take video. We do a diaper drive. We give the children rides. We take video. Don't invade a winter people in the winter. Fundal protections pertain here. You're on our watch. All that you have is your soul. All that you have is your soul. All that you have is your soul. Love your God with all your soul and your neighbor as yourself. And one more song by Bruce Springsteen, who you might have heard. You might have heard this one. It's called The Streets of Minneapolis. Through the winter's ice and cold, down Nicollet Avenue, a city of flame fought fire and ice, 'neath an occupier's boots. King Trump's private army from the DHS, guns belted to their coats, came to Minneapolis to enforce the law, or so their story goes. Against smoke and rubber bullets by the dawn's early light, citizens stood for justice, their voices ringing through the night. And there were bloody footprints where mercy should have stood, and 2 dead left to die on snow-filled streets, Alex Petty and Renee Good. Oh, our Minneapolis, I hear your voice, singing through the bloody mist. We'll take our stand for this land and the stranger in our midst. Here in our home they killed and roamed in the winter of 26. We'll remember the names of those who died on the streets of Minneapolis. And the way he sang Minneapolis is heartbreaking and beautiful. And if you haven't heard, that's only part of it, but if you haven't heard that one, I recommend it. And we have a local chapter of the Singing Resistance that you might consider looking up and going and singing. You might consider writing some of your thoughts down, and maybe even especially when you feel like you're stuck and you can't describe something, or you have no words, or you feel, and like I did, even if you can't do that, read, listen to other people, listen to songs, tell some small story of your experience. That's what we need. We need all our stories. Tell the story. If you make music, make music. If you dance, dance. If you paint, paint. Share what you're doing. Get it out there. Keep the little flame alive. Remember, even when you feel hopeless, there's still hope.
We have been watching something quite remarkable unfold in the last year or so. Not on a mountaintop, not in a monastery, but on cardboard signs held by marchers and in sidewalk chalk written by people who wanted to register their protest. It seems that stern representatives of the federal government, heavy-handed, joy-flattening, bureaucratically armored policies have unintentionally sparked a renaissance of the imagination. The muse, as usual, refuses to file the proper paperwork and simply shows up wherever souls are pressed into corners. And of course, from a psychological perspective, when we feel crowded, the unconscious kicks down the back door and starts redecorating with symbols. Posters proclaim America was built by immigrants. Oh, but it was assigned the Gulf of Mexico at birth. Could someone explain which crimes get you deported and which ones get you elected president? I'm confused. And this is the government our founders warned us about. And IKEA has better cabinets. And our biggest hope is that Trump is taking medical advice from RFK Jr. And an ice badge is just a participation trophy for bullies. If you don't want criminals and rapists running the country, stop electing them president. And we're not radical, we just remember history. And this one's a quote. Terrible things are happening. People are being dragged out of their homes. Anne Frank, 1943. And why protest? Because it's easier than hiding a family in your attic. And I need to be able to tell my grandchildren, I did not stay silent. Whenever people feel powerless, imagination becomes the secret parliament of the soul. Protest posters are modern mandalas, circles of meaning that bring order to emotional chaos. The chants become mantras, intoned not to gods, but to possibility. The street murals, bright phoenixes, raised hands, bridges instead of walls, these are epiphanies, breaking the surface of a collective dream. And the cardboard signs, those are spiritual koans disguised as office supplies. One sign read, "We tried being quiet. It didn't pair well with justice." And this gem, "Too stressed to be oppressed." It helps. We need the humor. To say it psychologically, when archetypes are under pressure, they get snarky. When someone paints "No Kings" on a banner, it isn't just political commentary, it is a spiritual rejection of domination. The art is not merely reactive, it is visionary. It says we are not just resisting what oppresses, we are conjuring what liberates. An older woman shows up with a walker. On her sign, "I've seen this before. Not on my watch." She stands there 3 hours. Someone offers her a chair. Nah, chairs are how these things start. A teenage girl writes in shimmering blue chalk, "Hope grows best in cracked places." Someone asks where she heard that. She says, "Oh, it's mine. I just looked at how the sidewalk works." A protester on stilts hands out flyers reading, "If you're gonna rise above it all, tell jokes." His mantra, "Joy is a strategy." 5 takeaway steps. Create something small, every day, a doodle, a line, maybe poetry, or just a line, a whispered chant. Creativity is resistance to despair. Doodle a protest cartoon. Doesn't have to be good. It's the doing that matters. Imagine a sign carried in a future march. Come up with something on it. Fiddle with it. Change it. Make the sign maybe. If you can't draw it all, there are places online that'll make you really handsome signs out of your sayings. Connect with a circle of people, not necessarily a protest march. Go if you can, but a study group, a dinner table, a congregation, a choir. Democracy is a